This Sacramento River Valley went through a pivotal transformation starting in 1938 with the construction of Kennett Dam, which we all know today as Shasta Dam. The construction, which took place between 1938 and 1945, extended beyond the dam site, encompassing numerous substantial side projects throughout the region, including developments in Redding. Such side projects as the realignment and construction of approximately 30 miles of Southern Pacific Railroad tracks, featuring this 110-foot high train trellis across the Lake Redding Valley. The old train tracks, which run only about a block behind me here, are now part of the Sacramento River Trail System. The realignment and construction of approximately 30 miles of Old Highway 99, including the North Market Street Bridge and Miracle Mile that climbs the Sulphur Creek Hill, which you will see here in front of me. Some sections of this old route can still be driven on today, along with the aggregate plant and Goodyear Beltline at what is now Turtle Bay Exploration Park, supplied aggregate for the concrete that built Shasta Dam. Portions of the aggregate plant, like the monolift here and the footers for the Beltline, can still be seen today here at Turtle Bay Exploration Park. In 1938, during the Great Depression, the Redding area saw an influx of migrant workers from across the country seeking employment amongst the thousands of available jobs for Shasta Dam. These workers lived in makeshift camps, waiting for construction projects to commence. In the summer of 1938, singer-songwriter Woody Guthrie arrived in Redding on a long freight train, only carrying his guitar on his back. In Chapter 18 of his autobiography, he provides a detailed account of the events in Redding and the camps that sprung up that summer. The word had scattered out that 2,500 workers was needed to build the Kennett Dam, and already 8,000 work hands had come to do the job. Redding was like a wild ant den. A mile to the north, in the railroad bend, had sprung up another camp, thriving nest of 2,000 people, which we just called by the name of Jungle. There was one remarkable young man who arrived in Redding with the masses, but not to work on the Kennett Dam, but to nourish those who did. This event marked the beginning of Redding's oldest eatery and the legendary establishment, the Damburger. Welcome to California Unearthed. I am in front of the oldest operating eatery here in Redding, California. That is the Damburger, established in 1938. And I invite you to come join me as we talk about the history and legacy of this iconic restaurant in downtown Redding. You heard me correctly. The Damburger is the oldest eatery in Redding, while Jack's Grill, located just a block or two from the Damburger at 1743 California Street, is often regarded as the oldest eatery. It is narrowly surpassed by the Damburger by just 1 month. The Damburger opened on November 7th, 1938, and this is the very first ad I could find in the Redding Record. It was dated November 15th of 1938, whereas John Young's Grill and Club, which it was called at the time, is shown in this grand opening ad as opening its doors on December 10th, 1938. This also comes from the Redding Record. If you want to get technical, the Damburger holds the distinction of being the oldest burger stand, while Jack's Grill is recognized as the oldest steakhouse in town. The two-story building, constructed in 1935 by Bill Morrison, initially housed a second-hand store. In 1938, Morrison leased the downstairs portion to Jack Young, a World War I fighter pilot who opened John Young's Grill and Club. The building has a colorful history, including a brief period in the early 1940s where the upstairs served as a brothel. While these two iconic establishments are the oldest current operating eateries, the title of the oldest eatery ever in Redding belongs to Lim's Cafe. The family-owned Chinese restaurant opened by Chinese immigrant Peter Lim in 1933 on Tehama Street served Chinese and American food for close to 90 years. Peter later moved the restaurant to Yuba Street before settling in its final location at 592 North Market Street in 1957, which was then part of the bustling Highway 99. Peter Lim retired in 1976, passing on the restaurant to his children, who continued Peter's legacy, operating Lim's Cafe until its permanent closure on September 6, 2022. We're going to start this off where the Damburger got its start, and that is right here at the corner of Pine and Yuba Street in downtown Reading. 1938, we're in the midst of the Great Depression. We're also at the beginning of construction for Kennett Dam, which we all know is Shasta Dam today. So we have thousands of men traveling here from across the country looking for work, looking to feed their families, or looking for that opportunity to work at Shasta Dam, or maybe one of the side projects related to the construction of Shasta Dam. One such young man was Lawrence Burton Pennington, also known as Bud Pennnington. He was born on January 1st, 1918 in Weston, Oregon. He would travel here from Medford, Oregon with his family in 1938, but not to work at the dam. He was here to start a business. Now, the way the legend goes is that Bud Pennnington started a pop-up tent burger stand outside the hiring hall for Shasta Dam. Now, in all my research, I have not been able to find any proof of a pop-up tent burger stand outside the hiring hall. Even in a 1978 interview that Bud Pennnington did for the Record Searchlight, he does not mention starting the Damburger as a pop-up tent burger stand outside the hiring hall. But what I did find was, in October of 1938, Bud was issued a building permit for an 11 by 15 lunch counter with metal framed sides valued at $500. He'd also obtained a $1,000 loan from Bank of America to open up Damburger here at this location at 1318 Yuba Street, where this building sits now. This is Bud's very first ad printed in the Reading Record Searchlight on Tuesday, November 15th, 1938, just a week after his grand opening on November 7th here at 1318 Yuba Street. It was a half a block from the hiring hall and right across the street from the Reading Bowl. So this empty parking lot that I'm standing in was the Reading Bowl at one point. It was also kitty corner from the Adana Hotel, which is right over there where the Sierra Central Credit Union is today. Now, I don't know exactly where the hiring hall was located at. In all my research, it's mentioned many times, but the location is never mentioned. So I'm assuming with Bud saying that it was half a block away, it might be on that corner there, or there was a building over here on this other end of the parking lot, so it could have been there as well. Now, I do know that the Pacific Construction Incorporated company that helped construct Shasta Dam had an office on the corner of Pine and Yuba Street, so I'm assuming that is where the office was, is over here. There's one story that helped corroborate the fact that the Damburger was only half a block from the hiring hall, and that story was told by an older gentleman to one of the current owners of the Damburger, Julie. And the way the story goes is that this older gentleman said that he was a young man fresh off the farm from Arkansas, waiting outside the hiring hall for his father, when he noticed people leaving a local business with bottles of Coke. And he looked inside that business. He saw people eating a sandwich-like object wrapped in paper. He went inside and asked the young lady, "What is that?" The young lady replied, "You've never seen a hamburger before?" So that kind of proves the fact that the hiring hall was only half a block from the Damburger. In 1938, a Damburger would cost you a dime. For a quarter, you could get a Damburger, a cup of coffee, and a piece of pie. Man, I wish those prices still existed today. Bud was not the only one selling hamburgers in the Reading area. Let's take a quick look at three other notable spots. McCall's at 1521 Market Street was known for its ritzy hamburgers. The Red Rooster Cafe, located 3 miles south on Highway 99, also sold hamburgers. And the most interesting one, Campbell's Hamburgers, situated very close to the dam site itself in Summit City. While the Damburger was 10 or so miles away, however, Bud actively promoted the Damburger in the local area newspaper, the Central Valley Times, with the tagline, "When in Reading." In 1939, Bud would meet and marry the love of his life, Noelle Lenore Dunlap, also known as Babe. She was the daughter of his meat supplier, Dunlap Market. And also in 1939, Dunlap Market would open their market here at the corner of Pine and Placer Street. only a block away from the Damburger. In 1940, the Damburger had a slight identity crisis in the newspaper. In the ad for January of 1940, the Damburger was called the Damburger Coffee Shop. In May of 1940, it was the Damburger Shack. But then again, in December of 1940, they named it the Damburger Stand. No matter the name, in the 86 years in business, it's always just been the Damburger. In 1943, Bud would take a leave of absence from the Damburger for 3 years when he joined the U.S. Army to serve his country. They sent him up to Fort Lewis up in Washington and gave him 2 options: either be the cook for the officers' mess hall or an orderly at the hospital. Obviously, we know what job Bud took. That was the cook at the mess hall. He would return to Reading here in 1946. But in 1952, things were going to change once again. When the Anglo-California Bank bought this whole block of Yuba Street, where this building now stands, and Damburger, among other businesses like Reading Music, Shasta Typewriter Company, Deerfield Tailor, Kyle's Donuts, and Real Estate Office all had to move. The Damburger was the last to move in January of 1953, and they only moved kitty corner right next door to the Adana Hotel, where the Sierra Central Credit Union sits today. The address here was 1607 Pine Street. And they would move here in January of 1953, and in 1954, Bud and Bud Pennnington would make their biggest investment into the Damburger by hiring their manager, Marge Thayer, who actually ended up working for Damburger for 44 years. It is said when she passed away in 2006 that she was actually buried with her Damburger shirt. Now, the thing about Marge was she wouldn't be able to remember anybody's names, but she definitely remembered what you ordered. You can come in by week or once every few weeks, and she would remember your order. She was an amazing woman. And she was a fun-loving woman, from what I understand. Her and the Penningtons loved to razz and joke with customers. It was just a fun-loving atmosphere inside the Damburger. And I think that's what kept these customers coming for so many years. So all 3 locations, like I said, were only within a block of each other. You had 1318 Yuba Street, 1607 Pine Street, and behind this AT&T building was 1320 Placer Street. In 1962, Bud and Babe would move the Damburger for the second and final time here to its present location at 1320 Placer Street, just a block away from the first 2 locations at the corner of Pine and Yuba Street. This location was a 12 by 30 lunch counter with 9 stools, the 9th stool being closest to the kitchen, called the rumble seat. They also had a tent stool in a little room called the Rose Room. And that room was a little weird kind of room for old timers, from what I understand. Now, they also had a walk-up window and the table on the outside of the restaurant as well. Now, Bud and Babe would own and operate the Damburger for 40 years until their retirement in April of 1978. And Bud is known to have sold 1,872,000 burgers, according to him, in those 40 years in business. And like I said, in April of 1978, when they retired, they would sell the Damburger to Mike and Vicky Carr, who only owned and operated the Damburger for a short 15 months. But what they did was they attached 3 shelves to the walls. They put 2 stools under each shelf, and they expanded the seating by 6. So now instead of seating 10, they were able to seat 16. Now, like I said, they only operated it for a short 15 months. So in July of 1979, they would sell the Damburger to Ron and Kathy Dickey, who would quickly make some changes. They got rid of the bottled Cokes, brought in a Pepsi machine, and added fries to the menu. Now, the menu's changed quite a bit over the years. Now they even have vegetarian options for guests as well. In 1986, Ron and Kathy Dickey had the opportunity to expand the Damburger for the first time. There was a 3-chair barbershop right next door that was downsizing to a 1-chair barbershop and moving next door. So they had the opportunity to obtain the property next door where the barbershop was at, knock down the wall, and expand their seating. They tripled their space. So instead of 16 seats, they can now seat 30 people inside the Damburger. Fast forward to 1993, they expand once again by building this outdoor patio that you see behind me here, putting out 7 tables and seating another 30 people on the outside. So now they can seat 60 people inside and out here at the Damburger. And in the wintertime, they actually have outdoor heaters to keep people warm when they sit outside. So it's an amazing opportunity for the Dickey family. So let's go inside and check it out. Ron and Kathy Dickey retired in 2005 and handed over the business to their 2 daughters, Julie and Nell, who still own and operate the Damburger today. And it's kind of interesting. They've actually owned the Damburger for longer than the Penningtons did. The Penningtons retired after 40 years. And now the Dickeys have owned it since 1979. There's the walk-up window. This is a patio that was built in 1993. And that is where the old wall used to be, right here. So this is the original 12 by 30 Damburger. The wall that they took out is right here. And then this is the expansion that happened in '86. All right, well, I'm going to sit down and eat. So that's the original 12 by 30 burger stand. I'm standing in the expansion here. This is where the barber shop used to be. All right, here we go. This is the Damburger, single with some fries. And how they make this is quite unique. They use an ice cream scoop to make these big meatballs, and then they take those meatballs and they squish them in a tortilla press to make the burger patty. Very unique. And my friend Cheryl is with me today. This is her first time here at Damburger.
It's really good. I'm excited to try it.
This looks amazing. All right, let's give this a shot. All right, let's try this out. To be honest with you, it's been a while since I've been to Damburger. So let's try this. Now what's interesting, if you look, there's a crispiness to the burger. And that's because the pads are so thin, it leaves this crispiness onto it. I gotta say, this is one of my top 5 burgers of all time. 2 of those in that top 5 no longer exist. This is on that list. This is really, really good. And as you see, The burger's nice and thin. A little charred on the end. But man, is that good. So Cheryl, what do you think after your first bite?
It's really good. I like the mustard in it, but it's really good.
You'd definitely come here again?
Mm-hmm.
That's it for this episode of California Unearthed. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you're ever here in the Redding area or you live here in the Redding area, stop by the Damburger, 1320 Placer Street. Grab yourself a hamburger with a little bit of history. And always, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and we'll see you guys on the next adventure.